Hello, everybody, and welcome to this first look, I suppose, at Maladum from Battle Systems. I'm joined by Colin. Now, we've a lot going on with this, so this is going to be an upcoming Kickstarter campaign for you.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, and I've been lucky enough to play through a mini campaign, a little triptych, three quests.
Three quests, yeah.
To lead me gently into it. And I have to say, it's a fascinating system. But one of the very first things that came out pretty much in the very first game when you were explaining the characters was, this is part of the core space universe.
Yeah, it is.
And it's not this happened thousands of years beforehand.
Yeah.
And it's a fantasy game in that regards. It's very different approach. So
yeah, so if anyone's seen Core Space or played Core Space, obviously we've got a large community of Core Space players. It's set in the same universe. So we've got Core Space is in one. It's quite a large part of the galaxy, but compared to the galaxy, I don't know, 32 kiloparsecs. It's a tiny little spot.
Trifling amount.
Yeah, and so what this is, this game is also set in that same galaxy, but it's set kind of way outside the sphere of where everything else is going on. But also it's set like, thousands and thousands and thousands of years in the future. And what's happened is that space travel has gone out to a certain place. We've got things like Dyson spheres and, transferring power to all these different planets and stuff. But one system gets cut off. And then over, many, many thousands of years, technology crumbles. So one of the great things in Core Space is we have all this like nanites and stuff. You see a touch of it in our augmented class in Core Space. And what happens is those nanites, they get more and more and more advanced, and eventually they kind of turn and they start, once they're cut off from the power, they go rogue and they basically just tear down this civilization in this system. One of those planets there is Mesos, which has got a place called Enveron on it, and it really does. The nanites just tear through all technology and break it down. However, the nanites are in the blood; it's genetically coded, and over many, many, many millennia, as we go through multiple dark ages, civilizations rise and fall, the nanites have formed a kind of a power in the blood, and they're still there in an organic form, and that is what symbiosis. Magic is. As we call it, Maladum, hence the name Maladum for the game. And so we have this civilization, which is basically magic is technology. However, nobody knows this.
Well, isn't that what they say? Any sufficiently advanced technology is undistinguishable from magic to less advanced civilizations.
Absolutely. So, absolutely. There's always an answer to everything, and again, it's super high science. But these guys have got no idea, and it gives you all that classic kind of magic abilities from telekinesis through to the kind of the fireballs and all that kind of stuff. Can't create fire, but you can manipulate it from torches and bring it across and hit people with it, and all sorts of different stuff. So Maladum really is set in Core Space's future, like far in the future.
Yes. Yeah, which is interesting because when you're on a world, especially a fantasy world, and they are generally lower civilization, and then they're not spacefaring, you have that world to play with, but it's finite.
Yep.
The fact that this is that world, but part of a larger galaxy that does theoretically still have spacefaring races in some pockets, means at some point other things can be introduced.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've already got, as part of our product range, really, part of our Core Space universe, we've got things like portals, and we've got things like time travel, and we've got all sorts of different things going on. And so there's always this ability to kind of move between the two. And in fact, one of the very early game testing things that we did with this, because this game is also compatible with all of our fantasy terrain and anyone else's terrain and so on and so forth, we tested it through our fantasy terrain. So we was playing Core Space on our fantasy terrain. So we've already had Core Space going sort of, if you like, back in time or to other civilizations. And it just works so seamlessly. And when we've been working on that terrain, we know what's happening in the game. So we've made sure all the little tiny cargo, the little chests and stuff are all compatible, So everything works seamlessly between the two. Yeah.
Delightful. Now, what we're looking at here is a 2x2 grid. Yeah. Is this the sort of the standard game size?
Yeah, absolutely. Very similar to Core Space. Maladum is going to be that package where you get a 2x2 map, which is a lovely neoprene map. Okay, no upgrades or anything needed. It's you then get the beautiful 3D terrain, which is obviously pre-painted by me, so it's ready to game straight from the box.
Yeah.
Just like Core Space, it's fully modular. You can set it up in any different way that you like, and the campaign will show you how to, it's got a key for it for the particular campaign. But once you've done with that, you can just make up whatever you like. And all the little bits of scatter and the furniture and everything else and all the components and everything you need to play the game is just going to be packed into, as our, supporters already know, this big, this big
chunky test.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, plus all the miniatures as well.
Yeah. Now, we were playing with you helping in an antagonistic sort of way, but it was essentially a solo playthrough.
Yeah, exactly. So with Core Space, we our original games, we've got one that had like 2 faring trader teams in it, and then we also then had our second adventure into Core Space Firstborn, again set in another part of the galaxy. That was a solo experience, but you could just bring your other crews in, so you could just take a little add-on, and you automatically got it.
Tag somebody else in. Yeah.
Both those games and Maladum are basically you can play solo. When I created the games, I play them solo. I'm a solo player, always have been. So they work seamlessly that way. They're also player versus player. So in our little quests, it was you playing.
Yes.
And I was just controlling
but
the game.
They were following an AI.
An AI basically, but it was just interesting for me to control those. But you'd be able to like pick up a little pack and have a second adventurer, and of course on the Kickstarter there's just going to be more than one crew anyway.
Multiple parties all trying to dive in and find what they need to find.
Yeah, exactly that. But it's not just like Core Space. Maladum has this kind of dynamic where we might be player versus player, but the game, as you've already discovered, can get quite overpowering.
Frisky.
Yeah. And so at some point, it's like, well, we're all going to die, so what's the point? So what you do is, because it's an RPG game where your adventurers are kind of leveling up in between, you don't want to lose your characters. And so what we end up working together to fight the game back. Maybe there's a handshake, maybe we trade something, we make an agreement. And then at some point, we then go back on with our objective, or maybe there's a little stab in the back or something.
All bets are off. You never know what's going to be thrown at you next.
So solo, player versus player, and cooperative.
Yeah, which has got a lot of dynamics in it that make it very interesting. It's got that RPG feel.
Yeah.
Up to and including the fact that you're do you call them crews, or are you just
adventuring party?
Yeah,
a group party. Yeah, absolutely.
Having that sort of town phase afterwards where you sell the loot, you level up the characters, you make those decisions that start tailoring it to your gameplay experience as well.
Yeah, just like Core Space. So, and in fact, we've learned some stuff from Core Space, and so with Fantasy, we felt that we really needed to kind of up that middle phase as well. So your first thing you're going to do is level up your characters, of course, depending on how well they did, and so on and so forth. Then you're going to be selling all the loot that you found in the multiple different openable containers and things with our little real search system we've got. And then once you've done that, you can then go to the market and buy. We'll be buying additional weapons should you need it, or saving up for something. And you've also got things like you're going to need to stay somewhere. So you can choose to stay in the wilderness and it won't cost you anything. But there's a chance you might get robbed, you might lose a weapon and so on. So you can stay in an inn. Yeah. So you have to pay for that. And so there's this upkeep of your characters. But, if you stay in the inn, you often end up meeting someone who gives you information that grants you access to view event cards in advance and just helps you along the way pick up items. Yeah,
but it gives that RPG feel then that it's happening within a world. They are living characters and you're not just at the mercy of the game in between.
Yeah, there's an element of real life to it, because you get your big loot and you get your money at the end of it, and then it's like taxes and all this stuff comes out.
Food,
and you're like, what?
Wear and tear on armor is not cheap.
No, it's not. It's not. Absolutely not. Yeah, absolutely.
But at the same time, sleeping out in the wilderness will just encourage some gnomes to come and steal all your medicine.
Yeah,
and
or worse. Yeah, exactly.
So I don't want any of that. So we're looking here at a relatively flat layout, so it's just one level, but I've heard whisperings of multiple levels.
Absolutely. Excuse me. So basically what we've got, anyone that's, again, knows Core Space and knows us, we were a terrain company first. So all of our terrain, came before we started doing games. And this is a very simple and effective single level.
Yes.
But we've also got a fully modular multi-level dungeon as well, which you can build you can build single level if you want, but you can go in 2 levels, you can pull up 3 levels, and it's got these beautiful like rope bridges and
spanning chasms.
Yeah, chasms and
what can go
great
wrong?
doors and all sorts of crazy things. Yeah, and again, of course, it's fully compatible with the rule set. So there's rules for going up ladders and stairs and so on and so forth. So you can play it single level like this, or you can play it multi-level as well. And that's not just for Maladum. The dungeon is fully compatible with, a whole host of, a complete plethora of other systems, from D&D, Frostgrave through to everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. The fact that you can go up, could you also expand out then if you wanted to be a bit more extravagant with your layouts?
Again, yeah, absolutely. Same as all of our other terrain systems. So, for example, if you've got this game, you can also then take just the terrain and the scatter without the miniatures and the rules and components like that, and you could literally just put another one next to it. So then you've got a 4x2, and you can have these big gauntlet runs. You can do 4x4s, you can do 6x4s if you're completely nuts,
Well, yeah.
and you could just have these kind of epic setups, and we've seen our community so many times set up these huge. So you could have like a couple of these, and then it goes into like the multi-level, and you work your way down into the dungeon and so on.
And especially if you're going to be bringing in multiple parties as well. Yeah, expanding out like that.
Yeah, definitely. If you've got 4 players and you just want a little bit more real estate, you could put literally just one more set of terrain to one side, player at each end, player at either side. You've then got a lot of movement to roll about, and you can get additional adversaries as well to fill that up with.
I was going to ask, because the AI works in a couple of ways. One is this, which I refer to as the Doom tracker.
Yeah, the dread track. Yes,
the dread track just ends in my Doom at all occasions. But as you progress and as things get more hectic, things get louder, more enemies have a chance of spawning, but you are limited to the enemies that you have.
Yes.
So if something's out on the board, you don't bring that in, you bring the next rank below it. But then
you do.
Once everything's on the board, and when everything's on the board, it's not fun. Well, it's kind of fun. But if you're going to be expanding into,
if you're going to expand in it, you want a little. It'd be great to have a few more enemies. So you couldn't. We put more miniatures in this box than we have in any of our other game boxes. More components, more everything. But we couldn't add any more miniatures because it is almost like too much for this size.
Sure.
Take a second terrain set and a little pack of just the adversaries, and you're probably in for a world of trouble. But it'll be fun trouble.
Suggest bringing several parties if that's going to be the case.
You need to rank your guys up a little bit and hire some more adventurers in the after game phase. Hire some more adventurers, to add to your party.
Well, this was something I never got to experience because I seen other adventurers wandering in to some of the dungeons I was in, and you can go and interact with them and try and coax them on.
Persuade them
for that game, and then with the possibility of joining your merry band for sort of longer term as well.
Absolutely, and you never got the chance because every time one come in, somebody else came in and just got in your way, which is fine.
Or they ran off and stole everything that I was looking for.
Exactly. So you can hire adventurers between the games anyway. You can just do that. Adventure is expensive,
Yes.
But if you persuade a wandering traveller whilst they're actually on the board, then and you get them safely off, they're kind of already affiliated to you. They're grateful, and by that time you've kind of managed to talk them into the fact that you're a great little party. You go out, you make lots of money, you drink lots of grog, So you can hire them at half their normal cost. So it's worth trying to. I try to do that wherever possible. Otherwise, it gets very expensive.
If the fate deck bestows, upon you the chance to get another adventure, then why not go with it?
Exactly. And between games, it's quite randomised. So there might only be a couple of adventurers to choose from, and you're like, oh, I really want them. But when one comes in and you're like, oh my God, that's Grogmire, and or that's Marana, who is effectively a very powerful adventurer. And once you get them off, they've got like an NPC side of the board. You flip them over, and on the other side is all of your adventurer stats. Right, all of your adventurers that you go in with can be flipped over,
vice versa,
and have that kind of NPC element to it as well.
What sort of number of PCs then, or those adventurer types are going to be in the sort of core set? Because I was playing exclusively with 3, but I seen there was
another 4. So there was another 4 off to the one side. So depending on, you'll be given a bunch of guilders. That's our money in the game. You'll be given a bunch of guilders, and you can either spend that on up to 4 characters,
right?
If you choose like the weakest characters. and you'll probably have really rubbish
very
equipment left
resource.
over.
Yeah.
Or you can go in with 3 characters, or even 2. You could go in with 2 really powerful characters and just weaponize them up.
Yeah.
But you're going to be able to do that, and then effectively, there's going to be a choice of 7 of the adventurers in the box. Plus, obviously, there's going to be like all our course-based games. There's multiple expansion boxes and all sorts of supportive, ongoing,
all things planned.
And we do things like Mission Mondays as well, where we're constantly pumping out new missions for course base. It'll be the same with Maladum as well. We'll constantly update and give you more.
And I imagine once the community's got their hand on the set, we'll start to see an awful lot of community-generated adventures as well, where they go.
We do for course base, and there's a lot of them. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what the beauty of it is as well is that you're not just confined to the characters in the box, because you can, if you've got your own characters, we have these online tools that allow you to take your own miniatures and basically put them across, print them out. Put a bit of laminate over the top, print them out, and you can actually field your own characters. So we've had in course space, we've had people taking the Red Dwarf crew in, and Star Wars, and all sorts of different things. So you can do. You'll be able to do that. So if you're a D&D player and you or you've just got some fantastic models you want to use, you can do that, and the tool will allow you to create a balanced character, based on points cost and so on and so forth, which is really, really cool.
It's fantastic stuff. The campaign's going to be running for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Have you any major plans for unlocks throughout it, or is it going to be sort of very set?
Yeah, our Kickstarters are very popular, and we've got a really good reputation, even through COVID, for delivering and everything, when many others couldn't. And we tend to run our Kickstarters sometimes a little bit differently, in the fact that often I'm creating the content while the Kickstarter's going. Yes. So it'll be like, we want to see this and want to see that. So there's a little bit of flexibility there, depending on what people are looking for. But generally, now that we've got a good couple of solid, well-respected games out there, we will have all the usual content. So by the time you get to the end, assuming we're successful the same as what we normally are, you can expect things to happen like, maybe there'll be like some sewers, and there'll be some mines and coming in, and we've got a whole we've already sculpted a whole host of characters that have not been shown yet, and we've got some great expansions. For example, I could probably say, or not, I don't know. I always get told off. But we've got one of the main boss, or the main antagonist in this is the Maladum, the necromancer, effectively, and he's very hard to kill, and he's a bit of a nuisance. But with one of the expansions we're looking at, and we've already sculpted it, unlocking a huge, great big beast that he can basically open a portal, and he will go in, and this beast comes out, huge tentacles. Oh, terrific. Fills up the whole room. And we got a really nice system whereby when you attack it, depending on how many tentacles it's got, is how many dice it's rolling. It starts with 7, and you know what 7 dice is, having played the game. But it's health points for its tentacles, so you're hacking off the tentacles, and as you move the tentacle off, you're like, I've got 6 tentacles, 6 dice, and you keep doing that. And once they're all gone, you can get into the middle and try and take the beast out. As just one example. Yeah,
and I imagine the tentacles then are free roaming.
Well, it's interesting because what we're looking at with that at the moment is that as a main boss, it comes out all the tentacles in here. But as kind of, whenever you're watching a film, that before you see the big beast, you always get a hint of it. It's always hiding in the shadows, or something reaches out and grabs you. So we've made it so the tentacles can come off, but also slot onto a base. Yeah. Which means that through event cards, that's what I was thinking about. You can get a tentacle come out through a mini portal and just cause you havoc. And it's that kind of it's that foreshadowing of what's going to come. And as part of that, because it's coming from another dimension, we've got some little, we can have one of those. The big beast can come through and it's big enough and strong enough to stay material in this world. The smaller creatures can't. So they latch onto something like a chest, and they possess the chest. And so you've got this kind of mimic-like thing. Yeah, thing that's that's how it does. And so you'll be in a room and there'll be a chest in it, and the next minute you're fighting it. That classic kind of fantasy vibe to it.
That sounds absolutely amazing. And if all you've heard for the last couple of minutes is static, that's because he wasn't allowed to say that and it's been edited out. But if you haven't heard static, then yeah, that's something to look forward to.
Well, I've just signed it off, so I'm kind of hoping, that this is going to happen. And Beasts of War on tabletop are great for us. So, I'd like you to at least get a hint of what's coming.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be absolutely fantastic. I have, like I say, played 3 games now, and it's a beautiful system and really stands up. Sometimes brutally so, but you never know because it's like a rubber banding. When you think everybody's down and out, all of a sudden you just have a fantastic turn and you can do some miraculous things.
Yeah.
Spend those action points wisely and shove some chili peppers up your nose.
Yeah.
And just go off. And all of a sudden things change. Sunshine comes into the dungeon. Rainbows and fairies are all about the place, and it's so much different. But if you're interested in finding out more, stay tuned. Like I say, we have these 3 games coming up, and you'll be able to check out the Kickstarter when it's live, and we'll pop the links for those both below. But until next time, folks, bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.